have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass is my partner, Mark Wages, and you are on the lifeboat. I hope you guys had a good couple of days off. We did. You know what, people? I got the lighting turned down a little bit. I've been had some problems with stomach and headache stuff, so I didn't want to be staring directly into that bright light, which makes me squint like Clint Eastwood. So I got that turned down a little bit. Hopefully you can all see me. So if you saw the thumbnail today, people, today is going to get a little bit ugly, but, you know, I get 2 days off and I start doing the deep dive stuff. You know, it's just sort of what happens. And, you start feeling like maybe you're putting the dots together, you know? And I really kind of feel that way. I feel like, we're in a very bad place in this country, and I'm starting to feel like, you know, we're waking up, but I don't think we're waking up to the entire thing, you know? So let's start with it. We're going to be talking about the beast from the East. You know exactly who that is, right? They're big, they're red. They outnumber us by about, 7-1 or some outlandish number like that. So that's who I'm going to be talking about, to hopefully not bury this, you know, in the algorithm, because the big red button seems to like the big red menace. So we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to refer to them as the beast, right? Okay. There was a very famous quote that says, if you give me a child until he is 7, right? Anything from that point on, that child is mine. It was very big with communist countries back in the day. They wanted the kids from, you know, birth to 7, and they're yours, right? There's no coming back, so to speak. Right now in this country, we really plug our kids in. I saw some amazing videos. Thank you, Brandon, my brother. And you know, people, when we do hit the like button early on in this game, as opposed to when we leave, it tells the algorithm that good stuff is going on over here, and it does actually pump us out a little bit more. So I really appreciate you, Brandon. Yep. Always there for us on that one. Really always there for that one on us. So right now we're plugging our kids into TikTok, right? I watched videos this weekend. They were reaction videos of women from 4 different countries, moms, usually about 4 at a time. A couple of times I think there were 6, but they plopped these women down in front of a television and, or in front of a monitor, and they showed them what their kids have been looking at on TikTok. And the reaction to these people, I mean, they were horrified. We tend to trust that, you know, yeah, I watch a little bit, you know, to make sure that kids, the second you're gone, you know, that app can be vicious. And the scariest part of that app is this, people. Oh, the scariest part of that app is the big red menace is deciding exactly what your kids look at. Seriously, wrap your brain around that for a minute. They are deciding what your kids look at. You probably realize that right now, for the first time in a very long time, we can't get anybody to sign up for our military. We're struggling really, really bad to fill the roles. On top of that, there's a bill right now in Congress to cut about 5,000 soldiers off of each branch. Doesn't sound like much. It's a lot. It is a very large number. And one of the reasons is we're simply not making the enrollment, the goals that we always had. And everybody seems to be wondering why. They keep saying stuff like, well, there's job opportunities. Right now, there are more jobs than there are people. So that very well could be it, because very often people enroll in the military when they can't seem to find a job. And they're spitting out all of these platitudes. One of the reasons that nobody is signing up for this is because they're not letting your kids see anything patriotic. Believe that. Go spend a little bit of time on that platform and see what kids are looking at. They are doing everything within their power. And if you could do the same thing to your enemy, honestly, would you not take advantage of it? Because we've handed the reins over to the big red menace for babysitting our kids. Think about that for a second. If that doesn't scare the hell out of you, then there's something wrong. Right? Truthfully, I got a question that's just logical. You realize that 90% of the videos that are on TikTok could not be shown in their country. But they got no problem whatsoever pumping it out to our kids. And you don't even have to have a great video. You just have to have a video that they think is probably not something they'd want their kids looking at. And then they're going to pump that out. And if they're thrashing the country, or they're glorifying guns and violence and talking about how drugs are fantastic and all of that garbage, then they're going to shove it down your kid's throat. That's real talk, people. That's what's going on. At the same time, right, if you really want to go down a deep hole, you might say to yourself, where did that big C+ math thing that we've been enduring for the last couple of years come from? Because you talk about a perfect storm, right? This pandemic thing happens. Everybody gets locked in their house. Two things happen. The kids go to the bedroom, watch TikTok, and the parents end up either drinking or drugging. What has happened to us in the last 3 years in this country is terrifying. The divorce rates are up, addiction rates are up, all of these things. And just in time for drugs that are killing us faster than anything else. No reason to fire a shot. There is no reason whatsoever to fire a shot, because they're going to destroy us within about 3 generations. And I don't mean 100 years, people. Generation is 7 years, right? They're fighting a 100-year plan, and we're just going and walking our way through it. And anytime somebody tries bringing it up, how are we letting them decide what our kids look at? They're dance videos. You guys are idiots. You're really worried about these dance videos? Go watch some of those dance videos. Yeah. Go watch what's actually being pumped over on that channel. Do you realize right now we have an epidemic in this country of kids who have multiple personality disorder? Right? I mean, massive amounts of teenagers are claiming to have multiple personality disorder. They call it one of two ways, factive or fictive. How's this? Factive or fictive? Factive would be you have split personalities that just, it started. And it could be, a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, whatever that's going on inside your mind to help you deal with things. Then there's fictive. So one of your characters is Harry Potter. Huh? Seriously. These kids will go to their teachers and say, I can't study this period because right now I'm a 5-year-old boy named whatever. This is flying, people. This is what's going on in our country. And again, we're absolutely stumbling our way through and letting this happen. Gladly letting this happen. Right? It's a lot easier than watching the kids just plugging into TikTok. Have you ever asked yourself, what do you think is going to happen to the generations that were brought up on social media? You realize we take it for granted that there really isn't anything to tell us what's going to happen. Right? Is this going to do to their brains what drugs did to other generations? Well, we don't really have any idea, do we? But we'll plug them in and let them take 8-10 hours a day of another country who damn well hates us, choosing exactly what they're going to look at. You write an algorithm that just makes sure that they're not going to look at anything wholesome. Even if they go out and search to find things wholesome, we're going to sneak in a couple of really jacked up videos to tell you how bad your country is. They just did a survey for the younger generation. I'm not going to call them any of the nicknames that people are calling them because I don't think it pays off. But to the younger generation. And they said, if our country were attacked, would they be willing to go and do something about it? I guarantee you, if you had asked that question when I was in high school, it would have been about 90% that would have said, of course we would. Right? What, are you kidding me? This is our country. How about 65% saying no chance? 65%. Some had to think about it, people, which means, what if the big red menace and their friends, right, you know who, decided that they just wanted to take a shot? And what if we had to go out and, I don't know, selective service decided to have to do a draft? You realize what we get, right? Think about this. What would we get? Well, I mean, the Rambo, generation, the kids who watched movies and shoot 'em ups and everything, now that's toxic masculinity, right? Now, the kids who would be signing up for the military, do you know the number one reason that generation says it is not signing up for the military? This one blew me away. The number one reason is because of the racism in the military. That's like saying, I'm not going behind door number 2 because I know there's a very large dog behind door number 2. No, you don't have a clue what's behind door number 2 until you open it. But the generation is saying, no, these people are racist. Well, where do you think that came from? Huh? Where did that come from? They got anything to back it up? Or do they just have videos when they go in to look at anything? You get all of they're dividing our country in as many ways as they can. And we've done a ton of videos about this, right? About a country divided on every issue that we possibly can. And if you don't agree with me, you're an idiot, right? We can't just get along anymore. I can't say that if you don't agree with me, we're just two people from the same country that probably love our kids, want to live the best life possible. We just happen not to agree. Well, that's not what it is it? You didn't vote for who I voted for. You're not coming to a barbecue at my house. You're a loser. I don't want you anywhere near me. That's how it rolls, isn't it? Do you think this is an accident? If I can control what you look at, right? They used to call it propaganda. And we had everything we could do set up to make sure that would never get anywhere near us or our kids. Now, we throw a switch. Go ahead. Take my kids and turn them into whatever the hell you want. Go ahead. Turn them into whatever you want. Then that selective service comes up. A big chunk of those kids are just going to say, no, I refuse to go. I don't believe in your country. And then how many of them between the ages of 18 and 45, which would be selective service, by the way, are dead? Because our number one cause of death in this country from 18 to 45 is what? Drugs, coming from the big red menace. You think that all of this stuff is coincidence? Think about it, people. This is one of the all-time great attacks that anybody has ever done to a country, and they didn't have to fire a shot. And what do? We'll probably take them public, right? We'll trade them on Wall Street and let Americans bet to see whether or not the propagandists destroying our country might go up or down on the market, right? We'll give you an opportunity to invest in the people that are destroying our country. And wouldn't that just be great, right? I mean, you talk about a social media giant. TikTok's the way to go, isn't it? You realize that with every subsequent generation, you give about 7 years, they don't want to have anything to do with the social media from 7 years earlier. We watched MySpace disappear, yeah? And then now it's happening to Meta or whatever the hell you want to call it, right? That's mom and dad's, stuff. That's Facebook. We don't have anything to do with that. The big red button's popular, but you know who's really cooking? Who's really cooking is the beast from the East and their propaganda arm, right? Just showing cool dance videos. Spend a little time looking at the cool dance videos. See what is getting pumped out to our kids. And then do a little deep dive research, right? Type in, what is the average age of anybody watching TikTok? Do a little research to find out exactly who is watching these videos. If this doesn't scare the hell out of you people, the good news is I'm scared enough for everybody. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that's my daughter, guys, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. I honestly hope that this is not sounding like something crazy to you people, but this is the perfect storm. If you want to destroy a country from the inside without firing a shot, if I said to you, anything at your disposal, you just can't kill anybody by shooting them, how would you do it? Well, if you were a super genius, you'd get as many of them as you could possibly strung out. And you wouldn't just send over opiates, right, that are killing massive amounts of people. You'd also pump over fake cocaine, fake cannabis. Every single thing that you sent over here is just frying people's brains.
And then then you color it like freaking Skittles. I mean, come on. What are they targeting, guys? Let's get real with that.
Now. Right now, 36 million pills. You probably saw this.
Yep.
36 million pills just got seized. If you go, boy, that's a lot and that's scary, the people at the border will tell you that they're lucky if they can catch 20%. That is their statistics. I'm not making that up. Google it.
It's DEA.
If that's the DEA and the border security, the people at border enforcement, customs enforcement, pardon me. They're saying they're lucky if they catch 20%. So 36, how many got across?
Yeah.
There are 330 million people in this country. So there's a dose for everybody in there. Now, the beast from the east, they are not a democracy. You get this, right? They have absolutely nothing compared to the rights that we have over here. But you want me to believe that there are guys over there buying the chemicals necessary to make this crap without the people running this country knowing about it. They put a score based on what you look up on your computer. You've got a credit score and you've got a societal score. But you want me to believe that they're cranking out this poison without you-know-who knowing about it? Come on, people.
Yeah.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Isn't it kind of funny, too, though, Tommy, that, the border states, we see that stuff come in a lot. But why is Ohio at the top of the list, too?
It's frightening.
Let's go straight to the Midwest, guys. That's what they're doing. That's the heart of our country.
I don't think
by
they're
design.
leaving anything out. Yeah, I don't think they're leaving anything out at this point. They're sending cells to every single part of this country. And not only are we getting destroyed, but we're shipping our money out of the country. Do you understand what that does to an economy? Honestly, wrap your dome around that. When cash leaves the country without being taxed or anything happening to it, it literally destroys the country. Do you know that we have printed more cash, actual paper money, since you-know-what started, than we have ever printed from the very beginning of our country all the way up, right? Combined. How much of that is sitting in container ships in other countries? Seriously, stacked floor to ceiling. Yep. And how much of it got sent out through Western Union and all of the other methods to just send cash out of this country? You realize, and we're just cruising along. You hearing anybody talking about this? I mean, truthfully, who the hell is screaming that we are being attacked? Number one cause of death. And my partner makes a great point. The rainbow pills, look, I will say, having done dope for a very long time, that very often dealers will either color the product, right? So they'll say, hey, the pink stuff, that's mine. So that you basically had a way to say, oh, well, that came from so-and-so and that's good dope. Or little baggies that had something unique on them or whatever. So, okay, you want to chalk up the rainbow thing to that. How about stuff put in boxes? They're smuggling things in nerds boxes, right? They're putting Fent in cardboard boxes that say nerds on them. I don't care what they're doing that for. That's scary as hell. Do you know that in the last 3 days, there have been a half a dozen kids under the age of 2 who were trying to get into our country illegally who died of Fent poisoning? This is a frightening time that we're living in. This is a very frightening time that we're living in. And I'll tell you something. If the ship hits the sand, we're going to have a country that goes, come in here and do whatever you want. Come in here and do whatever you want. Yep. These are our friends. These are the guys that gave us TikTok, right? I mean, our country is racist. It's worthless. We're not fighting for that country. If you can erode patriotism, right? If you think I'm kidding on any of this, do a little deep dive research. It's not going to take you 2 weeks. It took me about a half a day. for the warning lights to just start popping off. How there are
Get you fired up, doesn't it? I mean, those of us that are doing this for, day in and day out, like me and Tommy do, when this stuff gets us, it really gets us, and it takes a lot for me and him to get like this. It really does.
It does. It really does.
And I put a picture up there of the rainbow dope. I'm not sure if you can see that or not, Tommy. But guys, that's what it looks like. It looks like a bag of Smarties. It really, truly does. And yes, Tommy's 100% correct. The drug dealers will color it because that's how they differentiate. But what the difference here is that they're not holding their hand out and giving you 6 different colors at once.
Right.
That's what they're doing now.
Yeah, you make an excellent point.
Before it's just, hey, that guy over there's got the blue stuff. Let's go get that. Or this guy over here's got the purple. And it's one of those guys, we know that a 2-year-old ain't going to walk up on something like that. We get that, right? But the sad fact of the matter is, when you see that in your mind, what do you look at? What do you think that looks like? It looks like candy. And what that is, it's a desensitization tool that's being used there. They're desensitizing you to what it looks like. And those are fake. Those are made in a pill press.
Yeah.
And if you were to compare the blues to the blue oxys, they look exactly the same. So they've got this stuff down, and it's up to us.
By the way, you can buy a pill press.
Yeah.
Right? Cheap as hell. Do you know where it's coming from? Right? Go out on a limb and tell me where those pill presses are made.
That's a great point.
It really is.
It's
from the day that the beast from the east became part of the world economy, when our president, right, and the rest of the members of the G6 at that time, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That wasn't yet the G8, said, "Come on in. This isn't about anything other than free trade." And those of us in this country went, "Oh wow, how great is this? I mean, labor, $2 a day. It's the greatest thing that ever happened to our country."
Right.
And they just started filling bags with this poison and sending it over here.
Yep.
And the worst is yet to come, people. I promise you. Halloween is coming. I'd be really careful if I took a kid trick-or-treating this year.
Oh, yeah.
I would be scared to hell. When I was a kid, you would go down there and you'd take everything and they would go and x-ray it.
Yep.
Right? The big fear was that someone was going to put something metal inside.
Like razor blade or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So the sick people that used to do things like that. And God forbid, right? You'd end up with a very bad cut in your mouth. Or there were things that could... No, we're talking about, an OD that isn't going to... that Narcan's not going to do a damn thing to.
Right.
Right? This is frightening stuff.
I mean, they used to put LSD on the back of stamps that you could get in the quarter machines at the grocery store, right?
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest thing I ever remember. But first off, let's just say this straight up. You don't die from that. Your kid's going to seriously trip out. But it's, we're talking death here, guys. This is not, you don't come back from this. You don't fix this. This
300 a day right now.
Yeah. It's horrible. And, we can talk about the symptoms all day long. We can put Band-Aids on it because that's what we have to do over here. But at some point in time, we have to make some sort of change or some sort of move to try to stop it at its root. And, that's where we're at now. I really do think that the communication is there, starting to come there. And it's because of what you guys have been doing, what me and Tommy's been doing. We're not shutting up. Good luck shutting us up. It ain't going to happen. You could shut down every channel in the world, and I promise you, I'll be out there with my naked white butt out on the street with
a bullhorn, screaming.
One on one butt cheek it'll say quit, and the other side it'll say fentanyl. I mean, I don't care, dude. Hey, Google, take a picture of this and put it on your Google Maps. Yeah. I mean, honestly, and it's just not. Yeah, I'm sorry, you're a little fired up.
You're good. You're good. 300 people a day, right? By the most liberal standards in the entire world, right? Because there are so many ways that people die on this drug that do not make it into the statistics. But for those of a specific age, right? And if you're not of a specific age, this would be very easy to research. But there was a time in our country where every single night on the news, a guy would come on and say, in the conflict in Vietnam, 27 American troops died today. And America was sickened by the numbers. seeing the body bags come home. God forbid there was a day of 100 or 150. A little less than 60,000 people died in that conflict over the years that it took place. Americans. Now we're rapidly closing in on 1 million by their statistics, which I promise you are lies. I absolutely promise you those are lies.
Yep.
Oh my God, my sister had one of those pills. Oh, it's terrifying, brother.
It is. It's sickening. And the other thing that we spoke about this multiple times, guys, not only are they bringing it in like that, but they will actually, and I've said this story before, up in Chicago, South Bend, Indiana. I live in Indiana, so this is why I know this. Kind of hit home for me. 5 kids died from doing what?
Smoking weed.
Smoking a joint.
Yep.
Why? Because they put fentanyl all over top of it. They laced it. And the kids didn't know it. The kids did not know it. And that's the other thing too, guys. They're not just making these pills, they're making Xanax bars. Okay?
Oh yeah.
And they're in different colors too. So what I'm saying is that's a benzo. When you overdose on benzo, no Narcan is going to fix that. It doesn't fix that, guys.
Did you see Star's comment? Star, I'm so glad that you said this,
Yep.
honestly, because this segues into something that we really needed to talk about while we're hitting on this subject. This is actually huge. She says, Star says, I live in Oregon and we have kids dying every day. It's legal here. Do you know why it's legal here? Honestly, think about it. Once again, if you want to shape the minds of people, you want to get the next generation to just think that drugs are just no big deal. It's really no different than booze, right? That was mom and dad's stuff. This is our stuff. And they rap about it. The music talks about, eating Xanny bars and
they glorify it.
Drinking lean and doing all of that stuff, right? Scissor up.
Yep.
It's
double cupping.
So much
all that.
It is such a part of the younger generation, and that younger generation will be voting. And in 3 generations, this generation will be running for president. We fight a 4-year plan. Yeah. We elect a guy, he gets in office, and we have a 4-year plan. About 2 years into that, we'll start fighting over the next 4-year plan. Well, they're over there fighting a 100 or a 1,000-year plan.
That's exactly right. Exactly.
We're not
right.
in it. In their future, we don't exist.
Yep. Yeah. Swerving K9 says they work in an elementary school. Said these kids are off the hook. Yeah. I couldn't imagine. And that's the thing. We've talked about this also probably at nauseum, that this gets fixed in the home. If you don't talk to your kids about this, it's over. It really is. At that point, it's over because they're not even going to know this stuff exists. They might go to school and they might see a pamphlet or whatever. But let me tell you guys something. When you guys were in school, do you ever remember paying one bit of attention to a pamphlet? It's not going to happen. When your mom and dad sit you down at the kitchen table, take your phone from your booty and look you in the eye and say, hey, listen, wake up. This is what's going on. If you see this, you go the other way.
Yeah.
You got to do that.
We have a lot of people on here that were not, that may not have been on the last couple of shows, but nightmare stories. And, we're not here to do the, the doom and gloom bum out stories. We're really not, but there's no way to describe what's going on in this country without hitting some of these. And the one from last week that just jumps out, it's a girl that had oral surgery. This is not a girl that got high. But she says to the guys in the car, can you drive me by my house? I really got to get a Percodan because I had oral surgery. She had dry socket and was just dying. She said, you just got to run me by my house. I get a pain pill. And then someone in the car said, a Percocet? I got Percocets. You don't need to go home. Gave her one. And that's it, people. That was the end. And the number of stories that you hear of people who die on their first attempt, you have to understand something. Myself, my bobble-headed partner, we built up tolerances over really long periods of time, right? And over years and years and years of doing this stuff every single day, there are people out there that can probably do 6 to 8 of these pills at a time. Sounds ridiculous, right? Well, 7 grams of heroin would have killed about a half a dozen people. but I was doing that every day, day in, day out. The problem is these things are cheap and they are more available than anything in the world, and everyone is saying, oh, you got to try this, right?
Yeah.
These are awesome. And unfortunately, if you don't have any tolerance whatsoever, I mean, the odds are not in your favor that you're going to get through even the first or second attempt at this stuff. And we've talked many times about how each of these pills that you're looking at right there, if you think every one of those is the same strength, then you've never listened to anything we've said here, right? This is not a drug that likes to hang out in suspension, right?
Right.
In other words, it's not evenly mixed across all of the bullets. It doesn't work like that at all. It would be great if it did, but it doesn't.
Right.
So one of those pills has got enough fentanyl in it to kill 2 or 3 people, and there are some pills that don't go bang much.
Yeah.
Star says,
Let me,
OD deaths up 80% this last year, 160% on fentanyl from last year. Scary.
Listen to this. Jay Miller says, my daughter who dreamed of being a teacher 3 years, and she is done with it. The children are not teachable and out of control with no support from the system. 100%. And that's
Jay
why
Miller, that is so sad to hear that.
it is.
Honestly.
But at least you said it. That's how it has to be. We have to say it to fix it, guys. That's the whole thing. It's
Tommy Bird. I'm sorry.
Oh, so go for it, man. Read his comment.
Tommy Bird says 7 grams may kill a medium-sized Asian elephant. Yeah, there probably is something to that. Zenwen, glad you're here. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jay Miller, it's terrible because the people who go into education, they know they're not getting rich. It's a calling. The people that become teachers, I have a lot of them in my family, and it's something that people do because they want so much, to help affect the change in the next generation and really teach people. To think that your daughter's bailing out on it because of this is just sad.
It is, and Jay Miller says right. It's truly breaking her heart as well as breaking mine, guys.
I believe that,
and this is a side effect of all that. It really is, And who better to hear it or to tell us about it than somebody that's sitting in front of our children for 6 hours a day? These people are going to see it more than we ever could. If you're in that kind of environment, you're going to see it. So it's important for people like his daughter there to speak up. And, and unfortunately, it ruined her career. It sounds like. At least she don't want to be in that environment anymore. And I get it. Right? I mean, I get it. And it's a really, really like a specific point of view that most of us don't get to see. And from that point of view, you get to sit back and see all of it. You get to see how the parents react. You get to see how the kids are doing. You get to see how the kids are reacting with one another. That's a huge part of this. Huge.
Absolutely.
And if you can't get your kid to be the one that does the right thing, it spreads. It just really does. Julie made a really good comment here too. And I know she's getting ready to take off. She's in the UK. So it's 1:30 a.m. She said, let me go back up and read that just real quick. And then it says, I was going to read it in a minute. Oh, they did it in UK years ago at a park. They were giving out tattoos. They licked and put them on their arm. And again, that is something that was UK in 1991, she said. That was a very common practice back then. Tommy, correct me if I'm wrong, but, you spent time in federal jail or any kind of prison or whatever. That's really how a lot of those drugs are transferred into the jail system. Like
absolutely,
like the envelopes and stuff. Don't they like just
papers?
Put it, yeah,
they soak letters and drugs in the really out of control institutions. You now get your letters on a computer because they're not going to let the paper into the system anymore at all. They're eliminating any kind of contact. Swervin K9 said they would give it to me and you for free to up the odds. Yeah. We would be, something. This is really kind of an important thing because we talked about the possibility of them giving out free drugs. Again, like forest for the trees kind of thing. If you look at this as a group of people trying to destroy our country, right? All you got to do is make sure that 1 out of every, say, 40 doses kills somebody, right? Because eventually the people will scream for the country to tap out and make it legal. or tap out and just give my kids something that isn't coming from the beast, right? From the big red beast, because this stuff is killing them. So just give them, and what it's doing is it's lowering the threshold to how everybody views things like safe shooting parlors, right? These are subjects that nobody in this country would have entertained the idea of 10 years ago.
Right.
Now we're literally saying, well, maybe we should be giving this stuff away, because right now they're dying because they're getting attacked by people in another country. This is what they're doing to us right now is genius. It may be the dirtiest thing in the entire world, but it's genius.
It's a Trojan horse. It's a Trojan horse. It's a massive Trojan horse, guys. Yeah. And Tommy made a great point earlier, and then we'll get some of the Aaron's in here, and so is Steve. But he made a great point earlier about Vietnam. If anybody was to actually look back and when all the opiate stuff really started, it's when our soldiers went overseas, and the country and the world. Listen to this. This is where the communication. If you think about it, that's when communication was really starting to boom. Things were becoming more instantaneous than ever before. You could learn stuff really quick just by turning the TV on. Right. So our soldiers come back, right? And then the rest of the world sees how they're acting on these drugs that they came home addicted to, that we had not seen before at this level. And that's what happened. They considered it a complete, utter crisis in the 70s when 7,000 people died from opiate overdoses. And I've said that before. Now we got hundreds of thousands of people a year done. And it's sickening. It really, truly is. It's completely sickening. Yeah, Dana makes a good point. World War II was meth. Meth.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were giving it to our own soldiers.
Everybody was.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter what country it was. Everybody was using amphetamines. It was cutting edge stuff back then. And they were of the firm belief that it actually made soldiers way better. I think we've probably come around a lot since then. Brenda Weaver says it's a total business in the prison. The system ignores it on a regular basis. My husband was in prison. Brenda, they absolutely ignore it. They really do. As you know, it's really kind of it's another one of those things. We live in a country where if you run that prison, right, you don't want to tell Congress, hey, we busted 400 people for failing drug tests for fentanyl, right? Or for heroin. Because what are you telling Congress? I'm not doing a very good job of securing my prison. Right. So honestly, they used to come in the feds and say, hey, I need 4 white guys and 4 black guys who can pee clean.
Right.
I mean, they needed that paperwork filled out to show that they were doing it, but they sure as hell didn't want to catch anybody.
Yeah.
They really didn't.
And let me share this real quick story, okay, guys? I take Suboxone, so I go to a medicated assisted treatment, and I do a group once a week, right? And a group member of mine, he actually ended up hitting a telephone pole out in the whatever, but he ends up getting arrested for THC in his system that he had smoked like 3 weeks before.
Internal possession.
Yeah, but regardless of that, okay, so they ends up they actually sentenced him to 10 days in jail, right? And when he went to the hearing, they had told him that, if you get sentenced, you're probably not going to go right away. You're going to have some time. Well, they were wrong. They took him straight from the courtroom, straight to the jail. All right. Now, that's when his nightmare started. This man is on Suboxone. They would not give him that in the prison, even though he had his script with him. Because he thought the lawyer said, well, there's a small chance that you might do what happened to him. So he thought if he brought his own and had letters from the doctor and stuff, it didn't matter. It did not matter. This man sat in a jail cell for 10 days, dope sick.
Oh, man.
Horrible, horrible stuff, guys. And this is the kind of stuff that doesn't need to happen. How is that de-escalating or rehabilitating anybody in our system? It's not.
They have no intention of rehabilitating anybody.
That's what I mean.
Don't kid yourself. The 3 reasons that they incarcerate people: to protect society from that individual, to punish that individual, and to rehabilitate that individual, right? And then the last one is as a deterrent. Like somebody out there is going to go, well, I was thinking of robbing a bank, but damn, look what happened to Tommy. He went to prison. I'm not going to rob it. Like, that's never happened. That is the dumbest thing in the entire world. It really is.
Exactly.
I'm pained by that story, though.
It's horrible.
Well, and Congress passed a bill. It was part of the Second Chance Act that happened during the last administration.
Yeah.
And it was a bipartisan thing where some people actually came together. But that's when medical assisted treatment, there was a huge part of that bill that allows people, providing that they're not doing anything wrong and that they're not failing for any other drug. And there's a lot of stuff but if you have a prescription, they're not supposed to be able to tell you that you can't do it. And that's just awful.
It is. And he told that to the doctor in our group. And this is why I love the place I'm at. It's a place called Groups Recovery. And this doctor, you could see her face get red. She was so freaking mad because it ain't like he wasn't like prepared and didn't bring the proper stuff with him. It was like, no, you can't have it. Too bad. Go get sick. I mean, that's just awful. It's horrible. And that's again,
it's sadistic is what it is. There's no reason for that to happen.
And it's a side effect, right, of what we're talking about. All this stuff is side effects that we got to try to fix and put Band-Aids on until we can fix the root problem. But we have to have people out there attacking the root problem. It's
if you have a kid, right? If you have a child, please take a look at what they're watching on TikTok. Google, how can I look at my kid's TikTok search history? Or how can I look at the videos? Do it.
Yep.
Honestly, we're in that day and age, right? That there's no playing anymore. This is honestly life or death stuff. Do you want your kids raised by the beast from the east?
Right.
Because that's what's happening. And I personally do not have any kids, but my poor nieces and nephews are going to hear about this until they want to vomit, because I'm just not going to shut up.
Right.
I'm not, because I may not be able to win the war on drugs, but I'm going to win every damn battle I can.
Exactly.
Right. And if everybody has that mindset, right, we may not win the war on drugs, but if I'm in the battle, I'm winning that one.
Exactly.
Right? There's no chance in hell I'm going to let one of them get by me, man.
It's what we're doing when we do stuff like that. Guess what we're doing? We're taking a page out of their playbook. We're reversing it. You got to start small sometimes. And if we can control our own small environment, our home, our kids, that will spread. It will, I promise. It's how it gets.
That's the only way.
It's the only way it's going to fix it. Anyway, we got Aaron in here. We're going to talk to Aaron here. What's up, Aaron?
How's it going?
Hey, buddy. What's
Aaron,
up?
Always a pleasure.
Nothing much. So I wanted to talk about, this is pretty off topic for what your show's usually about, but in the sense of the war on kids. And if we don't want to talk about this, I know you have another caller on the line, so we could drop it. But it's about sort of transgenderism and what's going on in schools today.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, I think there's a couple interesting points, and some of it may even lead to, I don't know, drugs in the future. But with transgenders nowadays, like, first of all, what's going on in schools and what's being pushed down their throat with CRT, and you see transgender women coming in and reading, or I don't know, people coming in and reading to these little kids and dressing up and doing absolutely filth. I just think that's probably a pretty serious problem. Like, I remember when I grew up, I got spanked all the time if I ever did anything bad. If I said a bad word, my mom would put a bar of soap in my mouth and slap up on my jaw, sort of thing, and I'd bite into a bar of soap.
Yeah.
But
I think, and I would say this, about that subject, that's a very, very deep subject.
You know what, though? Here's a really easy way off the top, Mark, and tell me if you agree.
Okay.
I have absolutely nothing in any way, shape, or form against anyone that wants to choose to be anything, right? However, if you start telling my kid what to choose,
that's different.
I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's what's happening.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And it gets back to the beast from the east as well. Because if you want to see a ton of stuff on this subject matter, go to TikTok.
Yeah.
And they will ram it down your throat. They wouldn't allow that to be shown in their country. So if you think this is just an accident, no, they're targeting. And think about it. I mean, is this everything they can do to tear at the fabric? I have nothing against people who I think it's a tough road to hoe.
And again, that's one of the subjects that, and that is, Aaron, that's a very, very, it's deep. It's a conversation that probably takes forever, to be honest with you. But I do, I think that there is a conversation to be had, because, like I said, we do try to bring it back to the drug use, and, there probably is something there. Personally, I've never researched it like that. So I wouldn't be able to add anything to the conversation, to be honest.
Yeah, the one thing I do want to say is, I don't know, I'd go a little bit further than you, Tommy, but technically, I know you guys are both aware of the DSM-4 and 5 and all that. It technically used to be called gender identity disorder. That was the DSM-4, and then the DSM-5 came out in 2013 or so, whenever that happened.
Yeah, there you go. We lost you for a second.
There wasn't many changes that happened, but they changed that gender identity disorder to gender incongruence, I believe. And I don't know. I know that I have looked this up quite a bit. I see it on the news. I watch tons of YouTube, but I know that technically the suicide rate in those groups is 40%, just over 40% pre-surgery and just over 40% post-surgery. And I think they had it right the first time when they called it a disorder sort of thing. They went as far as basically saying it was a disease. But I think, like, I'm all for free speech, but I think forcing that down kids' throats and anyone under 18, I think is just foul. And if you see the shows that are coming out on Netflix and Hulu today, it's just filth. I remember when I grew up, I'd watch Dragon Tales, SpongeBob. I grew up in a Christian household, so Veggie Tales at times. But everything that's coming out today, I think, is just foul. And I think I think at some point it'll probably be a lot of those kids into harder drugs at some point, because I know they struggle with a lot of things, especially suicide and whether or not they sort of want to be on this planet. But I think that's another aspect of the war on kids. But
I got a question for you. And and it's important because, number one, you're articulate, and number two, if you look at our demographic, we don't get a lot of people your age. It's just not, So, in terms of your generation and the way that they view drug use, you know what I mean? Is this, when I was growing up, the people who did drugs were a complete sort of subsect of everybody, right? It was not like everybody was doing it, and it wasn't like it was at all accepted. But there was a small crowd that did it, but I think in the way I see it, it's really changing. Social media and music and other things. I think that, drugs now these days are so much more acceptable, and it's just one of those things that seems like everybody in your generation views them differently. Am I way off?
No, I think you're right I think my generation, for the strong majority, most of them are just sort of weed smokers, pot smokers.
What about Adderall?
Oh,
Because
yeah,
my
especially
research says
high school and
Adderall,
college.
Xanax, and weed. That's like your generation.
Yeah, since I can't tell you, because I went to a public university, but I did go to a Christian high school, and the amount of kids who did Adderall on a regular basis or would smoke weed on a regular basis is shocking. It was more than half in my high school, and I didn't know a kid in college who didn't drink, smoke, and do Adderall when it came time to exams. And they definitely don't have a bad view on it. A lot of them, for the most part, haven't gone too heavy, even though I know so many friends of mine who have tried every hallucinogenic out there. They've done all the uppers when they go to those concerts and raves and other stuff, but they definitely do not have a bad view on it. And I think we definitely need better education, more education when it comes to this stuff. And I'm not a parent either. I'm in my mid-20s. I don't have any kids, but it makes me scared to have kids, because I think this generation, especially my generation, is becoming horribly atheist, horribly immoral, and very quickly.
Well, I really appreciate you calling in every time you do. Whether people agree with you or disagree with you, it always you always have thought through what you're going to say. You're always articulate, and you always bring something to the table. So I really appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. And I know there's someone else on the line, so I'll let you go and get back to the drug aspect sort of thing. I just know when it came to the war on kids, this is something that I research a lot, and I think it's terrible.
Okay, thank you. Matt Bush leaves a comment that you got to hear.
You guys go.
Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate you. He said today in today's day and age, to be cool, you have to do drugs. Idolize the music, idolize people taking or talking about making their grandma sell stuff on the corner like it was cool. Music right now, as well as a huge influence. Matt, thank you. It really is way more prevalent. You just didn't hear, you didn't hear anybody's, a couple of tunes back in the day, but it was always sort of like almost as if it was in code. These days, some of the stuff, and honestly, I don't, it's not something I listen to. I'm an old man. But doing the deep dive this weekend on TikTok is where, honestly, my first exposure to a lot of this stuff. And the number of people who are rapping with a gun in their hand is astounding, right? They were showing, today, people, I thought about leading with this, but today in the city that I live in, the police took 2 kids out of Reed High School who both had a gun. And fortunately, somebody was smart enough to pick up a phone and tell somebody that there were kids in school with a gun, right? Somebody reached out, and so it was averted. But this is right in my backyard. We're not in, we're not in a big city, the biggest little city, right? But it's just frightening. It really is. My son-in-law, has passed more than 100 drug tests in a row. He is doing awesome today. That is so cool. Honestly, it can be done. It really can be done. Yeah. I'm sorry. People, this is the world that we live in.
Steve's on the line. You want to talk?
Steve, how are you?
I'm asking him to unmute. He's just got to unmute.
Okay.
Hello?
Hey, Steve, how you doing, my brother?
A little bit angry.
Yeah?
But pills are cheaper than bullets. And the only thing we can do about it is make our elected officials afraid for their job.
Right.
And the easiest way you can do it is I'm going to give you guys a website. It's https://www.usa.gov/elected officials. And there's a hyphen between the elected officials.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And you know what, people, that's a lot easier than putting a stamp on an envelope. Sorry, 1 second. Steve, you're a beast.
And I got a quick one for Mark.
What you got for me, brother?
I took my 8-year-old to the office on Take Your Kid to Work Day. As we were walking around, she started crying and getting all very cranky. So I asked her what was wrong. As all the coworkers gathered around, she sobbed, "Daddy, where are all the clowns you work with?"
That's awesome.
What's really funny? That reminds me of a story that I got to tell. My mom used to run schools. Elementary schools, daycares, always private. She would start them herself, and they grew often into very, very large schools. And one day I was in the school, and they were doing like public service announcements. And this is when tobacco was still really, kind of prevalent, So they were talking about how you didn't want to start smoking when you got older because, it's really bad for your lungs. And you never want to say it's going to kill you, right? Because if their parents smoke, you don't want to scare the kids. But we were telling them that it's not very good for you. And we had a doctor that took his kids to the school. And the daughter raised her hand and said, "My dad smokes." And we knew him really well. So we went, "No, he doesn't." And she said, "Yeah, he does." We're like, "No, your dad doesn't smoke." She said, "He does, but only really late at night with mom when they watch movies." And I remember just going, "Oh boy." So when he showed up, I said, "From the mouths of babes," I said, "Your daughter says you like to smoke, but only late at night when you watch movies." And he went, "Oh no." I said, "Yeah." So your kid knows you're getting high. They just don't know you're getting high. But someday that's going to make sense to the kid. But thought that was really, really funny. The kid just, they do. Only late at night. Thank you, Seventh.
You're the man, dude. You're the man.
People, that is the guy who literally has put himself into the mix on this.
Yes.
Like few people. We have put out a cry for people to start contacting politicians and making phone calls and being annoying. Because to be really honest, it's just like he just said. If you don't make them fear for their job, nothing is going to happen. That's the only thing that makes them nervous, is the thought that they may have to actually get into the real world and have a job.
Right.
And he literally just mailed out hundreds of letters. But that address he gave you, us.gov, start hitting every politician in your city, in your state. These things really need to happen, people, because right now we're losing it. Right. We are losing. There is a war going on, whether people want to admit it or not. There's a war going on right now. We're losing 300 people a day at a minimum, every day, day in, day out. And of what age? Military age, right? Our military, just like I said earlier, no one wants to join the military right now.
Yep.
We're allowing the beast from the east to determine what our kids think. So it's time to really step up as parents, as uncles, as whatever, right?
Well,
any kids that we can get. Go ahead, Mark.
It's just like, it's like Aaron and Steve coming on here and talking. That's what we got to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what side of the fence you fall on any subject.
Right.
You got to say it. I mean, it is what it is.
And that's respectful. You don't have to be.
Yeah, you don't have to be mean or nasty. Nobody was.
No.
That's the whole thing.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
that was very good stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
you read Matt Bush's comment.
I would say my baby
brother was 23 when he overdosed. At 13, he was a 4.0 student school president. Then he wanted to be a rapper, and the toxic lifestyle consumed him. I tried to save him. Remember one time, and you run. It's
wow.
It's terrifying.
And now
Now
he says he's 7 years sober. That's awesome.
That really is awesome.
Yeah,
right?
It's so cool. I mean, it really is.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Truthfully,
it really.
Good for you, Matt.
Yeah.
How many people are stepping up to the plate? How many people are getting involved? Because right now, people, honestly, how many generations away do you think we are from not having a country? How many generations away are we? And I know that there are people out there that we prepare for this stuff in so many ways, right? Get some bottled water. You probably a pretty good idea to have some food put away, right?
Yep.
For the inevitable. How about trying to prevent it a little, right?
Right.
I'm all about preparing. But if you got a kid, man, step up to the plate, right? This is life or death stuff.
You got to teach
them. If you got a niece or a nephew or anybody else, right? If there's a kid, your best friend has a kid. Make them hear you.
Yep.
Because if not, you're going to get an invite to to go bury this kid, and it's going to be the hardest thing ever.
Well,
we've just been watching it.
The best conversations are the ones that you don't have to say a word.
Right.
That you're just living it, and they're watching you. And make no mistake, your kids are watching you. They're going to watch it. It's just what happens. They learn. I learn like that. Tommy learns we all learn like that. I mean, honestly, it just really is. And, when we all come from different molds or what have you, but at the same time, we've got to be able to, we got to be able to break out of that if it's the wrong kind of mold. So we break out of that as parents, and we live what we say. We've all heard the term, do as I say, not as I do. That's a free road for somebody just to screw it all up. That's all that is. It's somebody saying, hey, I don't want you to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. Yeah. So, and
kids aren't stupid either.
Right.
Cemetery. I'm sorry. I got to get this in. Cemetery. Congratulations, my brother. And the crazy thing is this. He is 1 year sober today, people. And I remember the vast majority of this journey, which is really, really cool. It really is. He's a faithful member of the boat for a really long time. And how I feel from day 1 to day 365 is night and day. Well, God bless you, brother. We're proud as hell of you. We really are. It's just awesome. People, the ripple effects from one sober person, right? It's like throwing a rock in a pond, right? Those ripples just keep going out forever, and they touch so many people, so many lives. One sober person changes the world. Right. Same with Matt. You save a family member from this. Those ripples don't stop. For real. Somebody gets sober, and generations from now, you've changed things,
Let's get a 1 in the chat for that.
Yeah,
Guys?
that's legit.
Throw,
Absolutely
throw 1 in the
legit.
chat, guys, please, for that. That's awesome stuff. It really
It
is.
really is. Proud as hell of you, man.
That's our way of
That's
giving
so
everybody
cool.
high five if people
Yeah.
didn't know that. So
Yeah, tossing one out there.
yeah, for real.
Yeah, that really is good stuff.
But it's been a great show. It really has. A lot of good conversation, a lot of good talk, a lot of good stuff. So I hope everybody got something from this. I really do. I know I did. I know we all did probably. And when me and Tommy get fired up, you don't see me hardly ever like that. You might see Tommy like that a little bit more than what I am, but it is what it is, right?
Tommy Bird, I'm going to end with this one. If something drastic isn't done by those of us who can or would know how to do anything about it, once we're too old to fight, it's over. And there's really something to be said for that, people. Each generation gets progressively deeper, right? Deeper into being raised by the beast. True story. We let them raise our kids. Think about it. It's pretty scary. People, thank you so much for tuning in and letting us rant. I promise you we don't do it often. All right, I do it often, but Mark doesn't. But this is a subject we visit at least once a week. But usually we're just talking about the substance and,
Right.
because it is in the news every single day. But the beast doesn't get a pass. That country's out to get us, people. If you don't believe it,
We're usually talking about what happens after the fact and how to fix that, not how to fix the root of it. And that's what we talked about tonight, I think.
Christine Stone says, "You keep fighting." Yeah, I promise you. I promise you. We'll be here.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We will be back tomorrow night. We might even be smiling and laughing. Right? Thank you so much. Same bad time, same bad channel. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass.
Mark Wages.
And as always, that's a cat in a basket.